everyone, it's Laurel, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create a digital illustration in a program called Paint Tool SAI using only your keyboard and mouse, as well as a few tools found in the program itself. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is to draw a sketch on paper in pencil, since it's much easier than making a sketch with a mouse. And you'll see that when you open a photo of the sketch in this program, it'll show up as layer 1. And so we'll go over to that layer 1 and up to the opacity bar and just turn that down just so that we can still see the sketch but also be able to draw over top of it. Then I'm going to go click on this icon that says create a new line work layer and create a new layer, and it shows up as line work 1, and now you'll see all of our tools have changed. So first, the line tool, clicking once starts your line, and dragging your mouse anywhere will pull the line all around, and clicking once in different sections will create additional points for the line. And in order to stop a line, you double click to end the point. So here you can see I'm demonstrating a few different ways to make some straight lines. And then the curve tool behaves pretty similarly. You start with one click, but now when you click once to create the next part of the line, it actually creates the midpoint for the curve that you'll make. And in order to end that line and end the curve, you just double click again. So you can just kind of make all different kind of wiggly lines. You can click once to start it, click once to create some midpoints, and then double click at the end to stop your line. And now I'm going to switch to the edit tool and make sure that the move/add option is picked. And now when I hover over the lines that I made, you'll see some points and a blue line pop up. So the blue line is like the spine of the line, and then the green points are the midpoints, and the yellow ones are the endpoints. So if I click and drag on any of these points, I can adjust my lines as needed. You can sort of wiggle around, test around different things. And looking back at the option again, the add option, if you actually click in between 2 points on the blue part of the line, you can add points and create, just some more edits to the different lines you've already made. So here I've turned these straight lines into curved lines, and I can add as many points as I want, and I can just keep going. And yeah, and that's how these tools generally work. So I'm gonna go ahead and clear that line work layer. And now I'm going to use the curve tool to actually start my line work for my illustration. So I'm zooming in and out by scrolling my mouse wheel, and when I click and press space, my mouse turns into a little hand and I can drag the image around. And then I just go ahead and use the curve tool to make my lines. And typically I like to use lots of click points just to make it easier to kind of get the curve to follow the sketch that I made, but you can adjust that technique as necessary. And as you can see here, I kind of just go and trace over the bottom layer sketch using this curve tool. So once my line work is complete, just using the curve tool and the edit tool a little bit, I'm gonna go click on the pressure tool and make sure that the pressure for width option is selected. Now I will go and select one of those points that I talked about earlier, and if I click and drag on a point, I can change the thickness of the line that I made earlier with the curve tool. And this really helps to create the illusion that your lines were made using a brush stroke. And I just like to follow a general rule of making the end points of lines thinner and sort of the curved areas thicker, and then the points between those curves thinner, just because I like how that ends up looking. It sort of looks like an ink brush or an ink pen. And depending on what effect you want to create in your drawing, you can sort of play around with these settings and see what types of strokes you can sort of emulate using the pressure tool. So now that I have reached a point where I'm satisfied with my line work layer, I'm going to go ahead and create a new regular layer and drag it underneath the line work layer for the first part of my coloring. So I'll go back and I'll make sure my line work layer is selected, and using the magic wand tool, click on the areas of the frog's body that I want to color in on this new layer 2 that I've made. So I'll use my selection tool and fill in some spots that the magic wand tool might have missed. And then I'll go back over to that regular layer I made and choose a new color and use the bucket tool to fill the frog's body in on that new second layer. And then I'll just repeat this process for the different parts of the drawing that I'll need to color in, just to make everything a little easier later on down the line. So I'll just repeat that same process using the selection tool and the bucket tool. So I did skip ahead quite a bit for the coloring because I assume you already know some basic digital illustration techniques to color something in with a mouse, but this was mostly to show you how to use the vector tools and edit your lines accordingly just using a mouse and keyboard. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.